Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz, Shauketaly.
And a very good morning to you. This is Newsline live as always from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. Well, live as always most times. This morning it's wet again, but we have a person from a local council, this time from the Dayville of Mount Lavinia Council, but to talk what is happening administratively at local government level. Joining us this morning is Mr. Kesaralal Gunasekera. Very good morning to you, Mr. Gunasekera.
Good morning, Faraz.
And welcome on the program. Nice to see you.
It's a pleasure.
And finally, you all have got what you all wanted. You all had the local government elections. And bodies have been appointed.
Everything is hunky-dory.
Everything apparently is hunky-dory. Why is my garbage not being collected? I hear people say. Why? What on earth is this? Tens of thousands of rupees in parking fines for a 50 rupee overstay. We have mayoral washrooms being refurbished at grave cost. But the real story there is that the previous mayor, who's now in Malaysia as ambassador. Spent 4 million on presumably the same washrooms in the same mayoral residence. Then we have reports of tamashas, virtual tamashas, 103 members being taken out and down south some hotel, couple of nights, 2 nights, to learn. And what about you? What are you learning in your council?
Of course, we need to understand that we have to learn.
Right.
But the question is as to whether you need to spend so much money to learn, because learning is very costly, all right.
Yeah.
But the whole councils need to understand that this is hard-earned money of the ratepayers of the councils, and therefore we have an obligation to ensure that we don't spend it on ourselves. And in that context, I feel the council has a large hall. It has all those facilities to have a good program in the council. It's a commitment that is required.
It's the commitment, yes, exactly. It's not. So it's not the hotel. It's not the location.
No, it's not the location. It's a commitment.
Right. But then, so y'all, where did y'all go? Your municipal council, it seemed.
We went to a place Kukulegang. It's in the district of Kalutara.
Right.
Which is run by the army.
Okay. But presumably the army would have got paid.
Yeah.
But they must have been paid. Would it be, what's the cost? You know the cost? Was it less than staying in a hotel?
No, it's certainly less than staying in a hotel.
And they had all the facilities. You had an auditorium. You had all that. But is it necessary? Is it essential?
I don't think it is essential. But it is always
But how do the newcomers learn then?
Well, you can have those programs in the council itself. Because don't forget, you have 2 halls,
right,
where you can have all those programs,
right.
And if the council members want to learn,
they can turn up on time.
They can turn up on time.
Right. Do you all have security as members of the council?
No.
Do you have people waving around? No waving.
No. But I feel that for some time mayors were provided with security, which is continuing. Right. I don't think that is essential to have security for mayors now, because there is nothing, no such activity.
Well, but surely the threat levels are higher now.
Why?
Because you're not
performing.
Not performing. So
that is a different type of threat.
So the buck stops with the mayor, or should. So the people might rise up. He might get attacked on the road.
Well, if you don't perform, that is always the case.
What
you
about
need to perform?
You don't hear about people throwing rotten eggs at others these days. Instead, they hurl chairs and lift the mace up and run away with the mace and all sorts of things. Does that happen in your council?
No.
Do you all
in fairness, I must say, for practically about 40-50 years, this has never happened.
Never happened.
Never.
Right.
There have not been fights.
So you all have managed to control yourselves. Right.
Some luck, but managed to...
Now then, can we just touch on this business? The Mayoral Residence, occupied now by the lovely Rosie Senanaika. And I'm sure Rosie, with her inimitable flair for getting things done, will restore that wonderful mansion to the glory that it needs to be held in and maintained in. It's all very good. You know, the lovely wooden floors and so on. But the point is, we have Ms. Azad Saleh, who's promised to come back here with the information on our program to share it with the public. Mr. Muzammil, who was the mayor previously, reportedly spent 4 million rupees on upgrading the mayoral washrooms in the mayoral residence. We now have a claim that it was 5.4 or 5.7 million. Same thing, washrooms at the mayoral residence. Ms. Senanaika says it's all nonsense, it's not. The component for the washrooms, there was 6, is about 1.4 million. And she's promised to look into it and promised to come on the program and not only about the washrooms, come here and talk generally about their performance. But the problem is, ever since this council's been formed, all we've heard about is wastage or spending money, put it that way. You know, training programs in some hotel down south, the cost of the meals in some tamasha, prompting one newcomer to go back and refund the cost, per person cost. He's refunded his cost. Are these gimmicks? Is it really true that they're spending vast sums of money? What's the truth?
Well, the question is, most of these councils do have these programs in hotels outside Colombo.
Yeah.
Not only Colombo, the Ula Montana, all these
all the councils
do have this program.
Right.
Program. As to whether it is essential, it's a different question.
Right.
As to whether that same thing can be done in the council, yes, it is possible. But it's a commitment that is required.
It means you need to get in your car and turn up there on time.
Exactly. So that you can bring in people and get them to lecture, etc. And people can ask.
What are they teaching you?
Governance, local authorities.
Right. They're teaching you the ropes, in short.
Pardon?
The rules. The rules of the ropes.
Yeah.
How to pull them in.
How to pull the rope in.
Right.
Well, with regard to, you must always understand that when it comes to, we say, refurbishing of the mayoral residence,
yeah,
that is a matter for the officials. If the officials decide it has to be refurbished, then it's okay.
Yeah.
But if the mayor says it must be refurbished, that's a different issue.
That's not on, is it?
That's not
on. Why isn't it on?
Because the question is this: you must understand it is for your own benefit.
Yeah.
What is for your own benefit, somebody else has to decide, not you.
Right.
So it all depends on whether the mayor wanted the refurbishing done or the officials wanted it done.
Oh, I see.
It's the duty of the officials to ensure that proper facilities are provided to the mayor. But if the officials
But what happens when the officials say to the incumbent or the newly elected man and say, or lady, and says, listen, you don't really need to, this office is good enough. Why don't? And then the guy comes and no, it's not good enough. That's too ostentatious for me. I just want a simple office. So then you have to go and create a simple office. And a simple office also costs money. But you've got a good office. But you want a simple office. So isn't it a waste of money when you want a simple office, but you've got a good office anyway, with some other administration that spent the money?
My theory is very simple.
Yeah.
Whatever that is being afforded, you operate. That's all.
Yeah.
I will tell you a simple example. That when you walk into an office, if by chance the facility is available, you continue. You're not worried about all those things, no. you need to understand that it's an office that you require. But the facilities, you can go for facilities, and it costs money. And this money comes from the ratepayers. Don't forget that. It's their hard-earned money.
But now, Kesaralal, if we examine what happened post-January 2015, Mahinda Rajapaksa was given a house, but lots of money was spent and a lot of time was spent on preparing this house for him. And that time in between, the preparation time, was used for political reasons and expediencies, with each side hurling abuse at the other. Mahinda saying, oh, look at how I'm treated, poor me. And the others saying, what do you mean? Have you forgotten what you did to Chandrika? Poor her. And this went on. But the point is, the bottom line is that a house perfectly occupiable, and so having been occupied by a cabinet minister, was then refurbished to reflect the needs, let's say, of a former president living in peacetime. So they spent a lot of money in that. Then we had President Sirisena, who said, oh, no, hang on, I don't want to stay there, that's too ostentatious. None of this business for me. I'll just stay in a simple house. So off he went to Paget Road. So, there was money there then, because after all, he's our president. We can't just have him lounging around in some house. We need to protect him, and we need to keep, however much the simple life he may want, the problem is that he's our president, and we need to take care of him. We've elected him. We need to take care of him because we need him to deliver. So then you're spending more money.
Yeah.
And so therefore, my point is that it starts right at the top. So when it comes down to municipal level, and Ms. Senanayake wants her 6 bathrooms or washrooms in the Mayoral Residence brought back to scratch, then it's the same thing.
To some degree, yes.
To some degree.
Yes.
Do you think...
But as I said earlier, it all depends on the personality, You must understand that you're living at government expense. You're living at the expense of the average ratepayer. In that context, whatever that is affordable, you should live, that's all. You must learn.
There was some suggestion that the incumbent, the occupant before Mr. Muzamil, was the leader of the Spectacle Party, and that they didn't really look after it properly, and that's why we had to spend all this money now.
I don't know.
10 million, nearly 10 million in 2 administrations. It's a lot of money to spend on just one place. What is it? Is the quality so bad that it disintegrates after 4 years? Why spend so much money?
This is exactly my point. The question here is, what have the officials done? It's supposed to be their role to go and...
but are the officials frightened of the politicians?
That is exactly what has happened in the present day context. That's why whenever a new mayor comes in and says, I want this, it is done. So why can't the officials say, no, it cannot be done? Because it's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
Why can't they see that?
Because they get transferred out to some use to some...
Somebody else has to come and do the same thing. How many people are they going to transfer?
You want them to do a Rosa Parks sort of thing, don't you?
The question is this, the officials need to understand, if they are going to give in, then they are in serious trouble.
Right, so you need strong leadership.
Yeah.
Well, again, we don't have strong leadership.
In both sectors.
Tell me which sector there is strong leadership, apart from the private sector.
Yeah.
Right, where is the leadership? Each of our mainstream political parties have their own challenges when it comes to leadership. The United National Party well documented that role. Apparently, to change the leadership, only 3 lots of people can do it. They're called Raymond, and Jayaratnam. They're undertakers. They can remove once one passes away, The SLFP is the same. They're split. There's one person who's supposed to be the leader, And there's another one who wants to be the wannabe leader, but he handed it over. It's all a big sambal. It's all a soup. So that's a leadership problem. So what do you think is the solution? Who's coming in next? Who will be here to save Sri Lanka from this crisis, from this leadership crisis?
The question is, we need to understand that it is not the party that matters. It's the government, it's the country that matters.
Yeah.
It's the country that matters. If we look at the country, then we work towards the development of the country, then none of these things will surface. We are worried about parties. Why? Because we are not worried about the country.
Yeah.
That is exactly what has happened. Everybody has to understand that they need to look at the country first and not the party. The party comes second. It's a country. If you look at the country, then things will change.
Right.
And I feel the way things are going, it is best that the senior politicians leave the stage completely. And allow new people to come in.
In your council, in Devila, how many new people are there?
33.
Out of 48. So that's good.
That's
33 good. Brand new.
Brand new. Of course, the figure has increased from 29 to 48.
Okay.
That's the reason. That's one reason.
So, but then that's good then.
It's, to some degree, yes.
So 33 people who are brand new, who have not been in governance before.
But not been in governance before,
Not been. So they're there. So that's good. So that's why they need some training. What about parking fines? Have you got parking fines in Devila and Mount Lavinia?
No, we don't have parking fines.
You didn't put any meters in?
No, we have...
Any plans to do that?
Well, these things will automatically come in.
Yeah. Okay.
As time goes,
with the passage of time.
With the passage of
time.
So
are you following what's happening in Colombo?
Yes.
And I mean, there's thousands of rupees in parking fines and all that.
Well, the question is this: you must understand that you need discipline.
Yeah.
To develop a country.
Yeah.
And if people are not willing to pay the parking fees, then they must be called upon to pay fines.
Yes, but there's no relationship between the parking, the fine, and the actual amount that has been overparked. The fee for parking and the fine bears no resemblance. One is completely so many.
It could be due to various reasons.
Right.
Otherwise, if you park and pay your parking fee, none of these things will happen.
Right.
What you need to understand is that you have a liability when you park. To pay. So pay the correct amount. You're okay. After all, you're paying to the council, or you're paying to a government agency. So you need not worry so much about it. You pay the amount. And if you have a problem, you can take it up with the council. Colombo Municipal Council, you can always take it up with the council. Doing away with the parking fine is not, I don't think it's a correct thing, because we need to understand that we have to discipline people.
What about the, just going one step up from parking, what about the fines imposed under the Motor Traffic Act? There's a lot of concern there that, suddenly the fines are 25,000 and so on. But if that's a good idea, then why...
Why not, yes. No, the question is, as long as you are within the law, you don't have to pay any of these things.
Right.
You operate within the law, within the regulation.
Right.
Then you don't have to pay anything. We are talking about fines because we are breaking the regulation. We are breaking the rule. We are breaking the law.
Right.
That's the reason.
Okay, now then, you've also been following the news at the moment is several. We have the flooding, and I had a look at some images from Google, and when you follow the Kaluganga, as you follow it going upstream, you find in various places the Kaluganga has got smaller, narrowed
down.
Narrow. So obviously when there's more water, where the narrow parts come through, the force will be even greater, and
there'll be flooding.
Now it's narrow because nobody's done anything about it. No one's cleaning this thing. So, trees have fallen, garbage, all sorts of things, and the banks have collapsed, and, it's got smaller and smaller. But if it was bigger, then you will be less susceptible to flooding. So when the rains come up in Ratnapura and so on, and as it comes down, you'll have a problem, and the problem will happen. Is it just us who look at these things?
I suppose everybody should be looking at these things. But for us, you must understand, the principle is very simple.
Yeah.
If you have more rain within a short period of time, you will not be able to avoid flooding.
Yes, I know that. I know that.
Rainfall within a short period, heavy rainfall, whatever programs you have put in place, that will not suffice. We will have flooding.
But is that a lousy sort of excuse for
it's not a lousy excuse
for not clearing all this?
No, that is something different. You must understand.
Later in the day, during our news bulletins, we will carry this, what I'm saying, but those images. But all you have to do is, honestly, if you go into Google Earth and have a look, you can see, and you just follow the Kaluganga as it goes up, you'll see it.
It narrows down. It narrows down to various reasons. Yeah. Number one is illegal construction.
Yeah.
That is also taking place.
That's
right. Sri Lankans are famous for that.
Yeah.
Embankment, bank, anything.
Yeah.
You go and build.
Yeah.
That's it, because they feel that that's their right.
Yeah.
So naturally the river narrows down. So you will have more problems then.
Yeah.
So the question is, the councils, the provincial councils, the central government needs to understand that these must be stopped and proper action taken. Otherwise, in time to come, we will have much more flooding than what it is now. And with the weather changes, it will be worse.
Somebody is asking whether acting within the law applies to politicians.
Of course, it applies first to politicians,
right.
And then the residents or the citizens of the country.
Right.
Politicians must follow it first.
They must follow first. Because
they are the people who are enforcing the law.
Right.
So it applies to them first. You break the law, your punishment must be greater.
Right. But do you think that culture is here?
No, certainly not. That's why we're in this mess.
Right. Okay. Now then, shall we just touch on this business about I was looking at all the different news which is available. In Malaysia, the people in Malaysia have
elected a 92-year-old.
92-year-old who's been previously their Prime Minister, and not without controversy himself.
Yeah.
But they've gone harked back at the good times. And they've and what about the mindset of this 92-year-old man?
Yeah.
To come out of retirement. He's done everything.
He's done everything.
I've been there. I've got the T-shirt. I've even got the cap and the mug. I could be in retirement, but what's the level of his frustration? He's come out to fulfill.
Out of retirement. Yeah.
Got out of his do-nothing and I'm happily retired, desperately retired seat, and come out there to help to restore the rule of law. And he seems to have got on with it straight away.
Yeah.
Within 2 days, travel ban put on here. And here we have the former governor of the central bank still on the run, having acted mala fide in the interests of perpetual treasuries. Not my words from the Bond Commission report. It's in there. Read it, find out. So no action. And then we have the Singapore Free Trade Agreement. Why are they making all the noise? Why is the GMOA all activated?
I know, GMOA.
Yes.
I don't know.
Why are the doctors, why are they all going on and on, rabbiting on about this?
Well, the question is this: the doctors have been trying to take the government on every time the government proposes.
But they're doctors, they're not politicians.
Yeah, I know. That's one thing that they don't realize. That's the problem. They want to take on the government at each and every turn.
Yeah.
You cannot do that. The government doctors have to understand that.
Yeah.
But fundamentally, I feel that the GMO is run by essentially the top posts are filled by people who are much younger, immature to some degree in other affairs, and not in the affairs of healthcare.
Right.
Because you must be matured enough to handle a union now. If you are not matured enough, then you are in trouble, because you will bring the entire sector down by taking wrong decisions. And mind you, at every turn, the doctors have been striking. And who's at the receiving end? The poor man. The man who has money can go to private hospitals, and they go to the private hospitals and do their surgery, etc. But the poor man, he's left in the lurch. He has nobody.
Last and final question for you, just as we are talking about the poor man and the man who's not going to be protesting on the streets and so on. The emergence of vertical living let's look at in Mount Lavinia, for example, your area. We had buildings collapsing in Velavatta, I think.
Velavatta, yeah.
Right?
Not in Mount Lavinia.
Yes, and so on. When is it going to happen in Mount Lavinia? Are all these buildings all enjoying the right benefits? Somebody told me that they can only go up to 8 floors, but they've got 16.
It has happened.
So what's happened to the other 8? Are you going to force them to knock it down?
Well, the question is, it all depends on what
if the council has given approval, and the Urban Development Authority says no, you couldn't possibly have given that. It's wrong.
It's wrong.
Who was the overruling factor? Is it the UDA or is it
UDA? Because they only have given us the power.
Right.
So the overriding factor is.
So the UDA can say no.
No.
That
and the government will have to, and the council have to follow. Yeah.
So the UDA can order the council. To get rid of those other extra floors. But will it actually happen?
That's the question, because so much money has gone into that. You know, the question is, you have to stop.
But how much more money will go into it when the whole thing collapses?
I don't think it's a question of collapsing. It's a question of not following the procedure, rules and regulations.
But those rules and regulations there, one of those things must be to collapse, the parking issues, the water, the electricity, all sorts of issues are there. The congestion on the roads around there.
There will be congestion, but this is, the question is this, we have to understand that rules and regulations are there to be followed, not in the breach. So what has happened in the Devula Mountain is, in the past, certain apartment complexes which have come up have not followed the rules and regulations.
And the impact is,
the question is, the neighbors complaining that when rules and regulations are not being followed, they are at the receiving end, which is correct. It is tragic.
So, but what can be done?
The question is, we have to understand that the UDA needs to take this matter up seriously and take proper action, because the question is, are we going to prevent it happening again? Is the question. Are we allowing it to happen again?
But what better strong message than forcing the developer to stick to the rules and say, well, if you want to carry on, you're going to have to get rid of the extra floors.
That's correct. But as to whether the courts go to that degree, I doubt it very much.
If you've broken the rules, then you have to pay the price. Then.
I know. But who's going to take them to courts? Is it the council or the UDA?
And that is the question, and what a wonderful way to finish the program. On Monday, the 21st of May 2018. Thank you very much, Kesaralal Gunasekera, for being on Newsline, and that's the way it was from us. Take care and have a great fun week ahead. God bless.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shauketaly.